you can only pull some of those levers so far. So with earning, I mean, that lever can be pulled as much as you possibly want. I mean, the world is kind of your oyster if you have an abundance mindset. Like, you can only frugal yourself to such a low floor. You can't get below zero with your expenses, unfortunately. So I'll say that it's an important lever to pull, but some of these other levers can be more powerful if you want a really quick path to financial independence.
Yeah! What's up, everybody? Your life alchemist, your dragon. Welcome to Alchemize Life. I'm your host, Justin David Carl. This is a show where I seek out and share expertise, wisdom, and thought leadership in all domains with the mission of empowering and inspiring you to proactively design and truly live a life worth living. We're all in this together, and when we do the work together, we go so much farther, so much faster, and have so much more fun. Without further ado, let's dig into this episode and alchemize life. Cody Berman, welcome to the show, Alchemize Life. I'm so excited to have you on. And a quick introduction of who you actually are. You're the co-founder of Gold City Ventures and also the co-host of The Fi Show. So, yeah, brother, I'm super excited to dig in. And before I pass it over, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to share some of your expertise and wisdom. You've definitely achieved a ton at a nice young age of 26. And I know you have a ton of wisdom and expertise to share with people in many areas of life. So let's start with your origin story. You are well past millionaire status at the young age of 26. How did you get there so fast? Actually, and before we go there, do we want to talk about how we actually met through our mutual friend Grant Sabatier?
Yeah, I think I can cover all of that in one short story. So let's see how well I can do this. So I've got to give some credit to my parents because growing up, they had always taught me the value of saving. So, going through high school, middle school, as I started to get all these odd jobs making, $7, $10, eventually like $15 an hour, I knew that I wanted to spend a lot less than I was earning. Even though I wasn't earning much, I was trying to save as much as I possibly could because my parents were like, you should always try to save, always keep a buffer, kind of had that emergency fund mentality. So just want to give them the credit where credit is due. So I had that saving mindset all the way up, to high school. When I hit 18, then I started investing a bit. Now, this is something that was a little outside of the things that my parents taught me. They didn't really teach me much about the stock market or real estate.
Where did you grow up?
Central Massachusetts.
Okay.
Yeah, about an hour outside of Boston. So they didn't teach me much about the investing side of things. And, you can save. Saving is awesome. And saving is like one of the foundational pieces of financial independence or just a good personal finance acumen. But saving doesn't get you to millionaire status. Saving doesn't allow you to hit financial independence. You need to start investing. So I started to learn about investing, I opened up a Roth IRA when I was 18, and I actually ended up maxing it out that year, basically putting everything I possibly could. I think the max was like $5,000 that year. And the year after that actually was really transformative in terms of mindset, and we can dig into this in a bit. I'm going to get to our origin story where we met each other, Justin. But I read The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, and that book just shattered everything that I had learned up to that point about money. Both my parents went to jobs where they traded their time for money. Everyone else I knew around me, even if they were rich, I have like a cousin who's a lawyer. He does really well trading his time for money. So everyone who's an example of my life of like this person has their personal finance shit together, they were trading their time for money. And Tim Ferriss kind of just introduced this whole new way to think about money in that you could spend your time, your energy, your money, your focus on some big project. You could like just devote, whether that's months or weeks or years. And then you could kind of enjoy the fruits of that labor forever, whether that was an online business, whether that was in real estate, whether that was shoving a bunch of money into a stock market, like a brokerage account. And honestly, that idea that Tim Ferriss gave me like revolutionized the way I looked at at money from that point on. So, fast forward a few years.
That's perfect. I'm gonna jump in because there's two things I want to cover. One, the mutual love for Tim Ferriss, because it was actually same huge impact in my life. Finally started to realize that time is our most valuable asset that any of us have. And then two, it was actually through a Tim Ferriss podcast interview with Mr. Money Mustache that I discovered financial independence. Because before that interview with Mr. Money Mustache, I had never heard of the concept or knew what it was. So I want to actually ask you, you've mentioned it already, what is financial independence in your definition?
Financial independence is the point where you no longer have to work. Now, you got a lot of these quote unquote retirement police people saying, oh, that's not financial independence, you're still working. Yes, it's because I want to, or because that person, he or she wants to. So I define it as the point at which you no longer have to work because the investments, the businesses, the real estate that you bought, whatever you have in terms of assets is producing enough passive income for you to live on without doing anything, without trading any of your time for that money in return. So that is what I define financial independence as in a nutshell.
Yeah, I think I have a very similar definition. Financial independence is when all paid work becomes optional, as in you no longer have to work for your money. Your money is always working for you. Therefore, any work you choose to do is work that you actually truly want to do, and you would do it for free even if it didn't make you any money. And I think you're very similar to me, even though we have a difference in age. I love to work and I love to make money. As long as it's work that I find fun and exciting and, full of heart and meaning and aligned with my vision, values, and mission. So, I don't see myself ever stopping working, even though I could right now. But yeah, would you say you're kind of the same?
I'm in the exact same boat, man. I love the art of business building. I have a blast just with e-commerce and figuring out different funnels and A/B testing and all that stuff. It's fun to me. But the cool part about what you just said is I could shut it off at any point and I would be fine. I make enough from my investments where I can cover the cost of my lifestyle, which is amazing. And it allows me honestly to focus on that work more. I don't have to do what my boss is telling me to do, or I don't have to focus on this thing that maybe isn't valuable to me. I can just drop it if I need to, or if I want to, because that's what financial independence is. It just gives you options.
Yeah, it gives an incredible amount of freedom and power over your life, and I don't think a lot of people know what that actually feels like. And when, no, even if you're doing work that is work that you love, at times it will become stressful because there's stuff to get done. And at least for me, it's always awesome to just take a quick step back and be like, you know what? I'm totally okay. Even if everything goes to hell or this doesn't work out, I don't have to take this that serious because I'm already good. And then I'm able to literally not take life and work so serious and just be okay, this challenge is actually an opportunity for growth. So let's dig in for growth instead of being freaked out about the stress, you know what I mean? And being well, if this doesn't work out, then everything's over. So love that you and I are so similar. Let's get back to your origin story. You're 18. You discovered Tim Ferriss in the 4-Hour Work Week. You started saving super early. Then you started getting into investing. What happens next in your life?
So kind of in line with the Tim Ferriss stuff, I know you probably remember well reading the 4-Hour Work Week. He talked about what he called muses. And, in the financial independence community, we call them side hustles, or, the term side hustle has been pretty popularized in the past decade. So I was okay, I need to get me one of these muses. I need to figure out a business that I can build up and it's going to pay me and yada, yada, yada. So I had 2 failed businesses, actually. I tried to start a specialty clothing company, and I was reaching out to manufacturers on Alibaba in China, getting all the supply chain stuff figured out. I was in a way over my head, ended up quitting that. Then I tried to start a tutoring business, and I didn't take it seriously enough. I couldn't get people to work under me. That failed. And I actually had some success with my third business, which was a disc golf manufacturing company. So while that business isn't at all what got me to where I am today with financial independence, the learning lessons that I got in marketing, in sales, just in business in general, and networking are invaluable. Like if I could go back in time, even though the business is not really running today, I mean, it still exists, but we don't make much money from it. The lessons I learned kind of built the foundation for the future businesses that I was going to build, which I would have never known, but I'm just really glad I kind of took that leap at that point in time. So I'm doing that. I'm still, thinking of different. It was crazy.
No, I mean, so what age did you start that first clothing company, the tutoring company, and the disc golf?
I was 19.
Wow.
So I was a sophomore in college.
Fear, man.
It was a lot.
That's great. Yeah, I think one thing just to call out that really all entrepreneurs that are super successful, whether young or old or wherever they're at, is they're not afraid to like fail their way forward, because there's some sort of I forget the exact quote, but like the fastest, like the person who succeeds the first is the person who has failed the most the fastest. So that's awesome. Okay, after the disc golf, you're 19, you're a sophomore in college. Like, where do we go from there?
Yeah, so I was just straight hustling. I was actually doing a lot of the shipping and packaging for that company, like out of my college house that had like 8 guys living in it. It was super cramped. It was a crazy time in my life, trying to get all my classes done, like working as well part-time. But I was a voracious consumer of personal finance, financial independence stuff. I was listening to podcasts. I was reading blogs. I was reading books. And after about 2 years of that, maybe 2 or 3 years of that, I was like, I think I have something to add to the space. I'm young. I don't see anyone else. I think I was 21 at the time. I don't see anyone else my age doing this. So I ended up starting a blog and a podcast, the 5 Show that you mentioned in my intro here. And those were kind of just my foray into that whole world, and allowed me to build an awesome network of people. Like, I think one of the coolest things, quite honestly, about a podcast is you hit someone up out of the blue and you don't have a podcast. You're like, hey, can I have an hour of your time to just pick your brain on the thing that you're an expert in? They're going to be like, hell no, absolutely not. But, all of a sudden you have a podcast and you invite them on your podcast, and now this person is excited to come on. So I just made amazing connections. And one of the connections I actually made through the podcast was our mutual friend, bringing this full circle, Grant Sabatier. And so we had actually originally met at FinCon, which is a financial conference for content creators. Had him on the podcast. He was like, hey, man, I would love your help with my book tour. And I'm like, okay, sure. Like, what do you want me to do? And he's like, oh, I'm thinking about doing this route. Just contact the vendors. I'm trying to get to like these cities in this amount of time. This is kind of the general outline. So I just started going crazy on a Google Sheets. I reached out to like 750 vendors all around the country, and we ended up getting like over 100 events booked. And then after that was all said and done, I didn't have any idea that Grant was going to say this next thing to me, but he's like, hey, do you want to come on the book tour? And I was like, seriously? Like, I thought he was honestly joking, and it was going to be like an inside joke with him and all his personal finance buddies. But he's like, no, like, I'd love for you to come on the book tour. You can share your story. We can kind of like just ride this thing out together for the next 3 months, get to know each other. He was like a mentor to me. And so I went and did it. And we started in New York City. We went counterclockwise around the entire continental U.S. And, we landed about a month into that trip in California, where we met Justin at the University of San Diego campus, correct?
Nope, Stanford University.
Stanford, close enough.
Yeah, no worries. I know California is a big place,
big,
and you went to hundreds of these meetups. So just a couple notes to kind of like give some more color to the story. So when I first discovered financial independence, one of the things that I did is I started a financial independence monthly meetup. And I started at Stanford because I lived close to Stanford. I went to undergrad there, but the meetup had no like true affiliation with Stanford, other than the fact that it was like a central location kind of in the Bay Area that people could come and congregate to. And for me, when I, after I discovered financial independence through Tim Ferriss and Mr. Money Mustache, I was like, well, I want like people that are like real people and actual friends that I can like meet up with and share ideas, inspiration, strategy, bounce ideas off of, like go over kind of my trajectory and my plans, and make sure that I'm not doing anything stupid. Because honestly, one of the fastest ways to up level your, any endeavor is to create a mastermind around it and get like real life friends around it. So I created that with my co-host Anna, And we were running that thing, prior to the pandemic every single month for 3 years. And it was somewhere, do you remember what year you were doing the book tour?
I do remember that.
Since the pandemic, it's like time.
It was 2019. So it was April of 2019. Of course, I can remember the exact date, but I can't remember the university.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was, awesome because Anna, my co-host, I'm going to give her all credit. I don't know how she got into contact with you and Grant Sabatier, but she set up the whole, the special guest speech or event that we put together with you and Grant Sabatier. And it was I just have to say it was one of the coolest, most awesome kind of events that we did, because Stanford campus is stunning, but we found this incredible place that is kind of like a mini outdoor auditorium that is in the center of Stanford's engineering quad. And it had like a tree in the middle of it, and then you were able to sit around it in like a semicircle. So like you and Grant were like speaking under this tree, like sharing all your wisdom and experience around Phi, and like we were all in like beautiful California sunshine, and it was just such a magical, inspiring event. And I was so, I felt so deeply grateful to like meet the two of you in person and make that in-person connection. So at that point, kind of where were you, 2019 April, where were you in your Phi journey? Like, are you comfortable sharing your net worth then?
Yeah, for sure.
Like what were you doing for money? Like obviously you're traveling around and for people who don't know, like I just gotta like tell, like they were traveling around in like a van, like a super old school van. I forget the make and model, you probably know, but like it was like hilarious. It was like something out of a movie. And I think the van's name was Tom.
It was.
If I got it right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about where you were personally at that point. You got this incredible opportunity because you weren't afraid to like put in some work for someone who, really, made no promise about like giving you any opportunity, but you did the work and he invited you on the book tour. Where were you at then on your Phi journey?
Yeah, so I guess I have to back up a little bit. So I was doing all these side hustles, but I mentioned I was in college. I studied finance and economics, so I actually did get a quote-unquote, real job for a short stint right after I graduated. So I worked for a commercial real estate lender, and I was, again, building out these side hustles. And I had a plan to quit after 1 year, and I was going to go full entrepreneur and just try to hit Phi that way. But this whole book tour thing kind of derailed that plan, and I ended up quitting 7 months in to my job, and my boss was not happy. He actually told me, he took me into his office and told me that I was a waste of time and resources. So that was nice. But nevertheless, I ended up taking that leap because I was like, when else am I going to have an opportunity to travel around the country with this dude who hit financial independence at 30, has a multi-million-dollar net worth? Like, I just didn't have that type of access at that point in my life. Now I have a much broader network, and I actually have more people like that in my life. But at that point, again, going back to the very beginning of my story, I didn't have role models who had done this. Everyone I knew traded their time for money. No one had heard of financial independence before, so I just went for it. But the reason why I mentioned the full-time job was I was making good money. I was making like 80 grand a year, and I got a signing bonus. So at the time I had quit, I think my net worth was $75,000, which as a 22-year-old is like astronomical. I was in a super fortunate position. Again, I had the Mr. Money mustache, Tim Ferriss background, so I already had that like mindset hard-coded into me. So I was saving 90% of my income at that point and just being frugal as all hell. Like we were talking about before, Justin, I wasn't going out to eat. I wasn't doing much of anything. I was just saving. And yeah, like you said, it was kind of just going out on a whim and hoping that I could absorb as much as I possibly could from Grant. He gave me no promises. He didn't give me like a pay or anything. He just said, I'll cover your like bills, which was like health insurance and maybe a couple other things. But like, it wasn't like he was paying me a bunch of money to manage this book tour. It was more like an internship where the payment was just access, knowledge, expertise, and, being able to ask this guy basically questions 24/7 because we literally live together. And this is for you van junkies who are curious. Tom was a 1981 Westphalia VW pop-up camper, color yellow. But yeah, that was kind of my financial picture.
Yeah, that's amazing. So obviously I really appreciate you kind of calling out your parents' help and just teaching you the saving mindset because unfortunately, and listeners may or may not be aware of, like, most people save less than 5% of their money. So that, like, the fact that you had $75,000 saved up at 22 is epic AF. And so, okay, so we're at 2019 and you basically quit your job to go, pursue this Phi life and join Grant. How long were you guys on tour for? How many days? How many months?
3 months. It was like 80 something days. And we hit 33 states and we had over 90 events and drove over 16,000 miles. So it was a little fast paced.
Wow. So it really was like an internship, but it was like full-time internship / mentorship because you were literally living in a van together. So I'm sure you had tons of like long, deep conversations on the many drives. That's pretty incredible, dude.
Yeah, I think you'd appreciate this, Justin. So, I mean, the van didn't have a shower or anything. So our shower was, we got a black card at Planet Fitness at the beginning of the trip. And we would just go to the gym like 6 days a week and, work out. And then we'd shower. And like, that was basically like our bedroom / bureau. Like, we'd bring in clothes to change into, get our workout in. It was a different kind of life, but it was honestly humbling. Like, I'm really glad I did it.
Yeah, that's genius. I think it's always good to kind of like do those endeavors that like kind of force you to rough it and like get uncomfortable and get outside of your comfort zone. Like I've done, things like Vision Quest where like, you're out in the wilderness like with minimal equipment and like literally like no bathroom, even no food because I was like fasting for it. And it's just like you come out of it and it makes you so appreciative of like quote unquote a normal lifestyle, like having a regular roof over your head and like regular access to a bathroom and food. So that's really awesome that you were able to like lean into that experience and embrace it. So take us from like, that experience with Grant Sabatier to you actually getting to over $1 million net worth.
Yeah, so this was a much faster journey than I could have ever anticipated. Luckily, we had a bull market on our side, so that definitely it was a contributing factor. But where everything kind of changed was middle of 2019, right after we got off the book tour. I teamed up with a great friend of mine now who I didn't really know well at the time. This is going to be a theme in my story, is teaming up with people who I see can fill my skill and knowledge gaps. Like if I know that someone can complement me in a certain area of business or life, like I'm just like really attracted to working with or getting to know that person better. So Julie Berninger, she was another podcast host in the financial independent space. She was super type A, like just really smart business acumen. And we decided to team up and launch some side hustle courses. And when we originally launched, we foolishly launched with 3 full-blown, like hundreds of hours of content courses at once. It was like the worst couple of months of my life building those things. But it has paid off in the end. But, since we launched those 3 courses, we had a blogging course, a freelancing course, and then a course teaching people how to create and sell printables and digital downloads on Etsy and other places. We have since shut down that freelancing and that blogging course. And like, I don't know the exact quote either, Justin, but yeah, being able to fail and fail fast is such a superpower because, I mean, we had spent hundreds of hours, thousands of dollars building out these 2 other courses. And it was just like 85% of the people wanted this Etsy printables course. So, we had to make the gut-wrenching decision at the time. Let's shut down these 2 courses that we're working on and let's just go all in on this Etsy printables thing. And it has been an absolutely wild ride. We actually just had a student last week from our course, one of our first students in 2019. She got featured on CNBC. It was like millennial mom made $160K last year from her Etsy side hustle. And like, obviously I'm jumping really far forward, like from when we first launched in 2019, but like going back to you can do things that fulfill you, seeing stuff like that, being able to impact people's lives, help them earn money outside of a day job, like that is just such a rewarding feeling. And I was so pumped when I saw her make that headline on CNBC. But yeah, man, we launched those courses. The Etsy one really started to take off, and our personal Etsy shops. Obviously we didn't just like launch a course with something we didn't know anything about. We had both been selling digital products on Etsy and Shopify and WooCommerce and other places, and both started to make some serious money. And then we launched the course and a bunch of other products like ebooks and whatnot. And basically every year since 2019, my income has doubled, which is crazy. Like it went from, I think it was around 100K in 2019 to 200K in 2020 to 400K in 2021 and it's looking like it's going to double again this year, which is crazy, the exponential return you get in entrepreneurship. So, I mean, I know I just breezed over like 3 years. We can definitely dig into any and every part of that you want, because digital products, honestly, I could talk about that for days. And it's just an easy way to kind of get your feet wet with passive income for those who have never experienced the phenomena of waking up and you have more money than you did the day before, like any form of passive income. But yeah, man, happy to take this in any direction you want to go.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about digital products. I literally have not a ton of experience with selling any type of digital product. So one, how did you decide on like Etsy printables as your course, and then how did you personally get into digital products?
Yeah, so first part of that question, why Etsy? So you can sell digital products anywhere. Like I've sold digital products on WooCommerce, which is like an extension of a website. I've sold them on Shopify. The beauty of Etsy, similar to Amazon, is that they already have this huge market of people looking for products. So Etsy at this point, while we're recording mid 2022, has about 100 million users that are searching for products on Etsy. So unlike the other examples I just named, you don't have to bring the customers to your store. They're already on the platform. You just have to understand, search engine optimization and creating attractive listings, doing keyword research, and then the people come to you rather than you having to have like some massive social media presence or you being a master of getting people to your website. Etsy does all the heavy lifting for you. In terms of what I wanted to create, I honestly just threw spaghetti at the wall when I first started printables and digital downloads. Like I was creating invitations, I was creating games, I was creating the celebratory things, I was creating templates, I was creating planners, I was creating anything and everything under the sun and just seeing what was going to be successful for me. And what actually ended up being really successful for me was chasing seasonal trends. So for example, a ton of people in January and in February are going on Etsy to get Valentine's Day presents for their significant other. So I made a bunch of these printables. I had like these cards, I had these love coupons, I had like these things where you could put your spouse's face in a heart and a bunch of really cute Valentine's Day stuff. And honestly, as a dude who had never been on Etsy before and don't really have a knack for graphic design, I wasn't sure if I was going to be successful. But that first Valentine's Day I was on Etsy, I was actually snowboarding in Lake Tahoe with a bunch of FinCon people, some people you might know, Justin, and I had my sound on my phone, and it was because I was expecting a call from someone, and I kept getting this cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching sound. For those of you who are on Etsy, that means you made a sale. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? So we go into lunch, and I look at my phone. I'd made like $120 from this one printable design that I had created. It was like one of the invitations or the coupons. I don't exactly remember which one it was because I'm constantly updating stuff. But, that was like February 10th. Over the course of that week, and I was snowboarding. I really wasn't working on my computer at all. I didn't even bring it with me on that vacation. I'd made like $800 from, I think it was like a handful, like 3 or 4 out of the 20 printables that I created. So I didn't have a 100% hit rate. But, 3 or 4 of these things had made me $800 essentially passively. Like I just created the design, uploaded it, and then it didn't matter whether one person or 100 people bought it. It's the same amount of work for me. So after that, I was hooked, and I've definitely created way more products since then. But that was kind of the origin story of me falling in love with printables and digital products, and it just ended up working out.
That's super awesome. Question: how long did it take you to create those initial 4 products on Etsy? And also if you could kind of give us a sense of like the learning curve for like Etsy, like both time and kind of like difficulty.
Yeah, so in terms of the time it took me, I was definitely slower then. Probably took me like 2 to 3 hours per design. And I was using a free program called Canva. actually, for those who aren't familiar, canva.com. It's awesome, and you can create digital products on Canva to sell, as long as you're wary of the commercial use stuff, but I'm not going to get into the techniques here. But yeah, so probably 2 or 3 hours per printable. Now it's down to like an hour or less, and I just use like a million templates, and templates makes things so much easier in, I guess, every facet of life. And then, let's see, what was the second part of that question?
Like, how did you actually learn the Etsy platform?
Oh, the learning curve on Etsy itself.
How challenging was that, and how long did it take you to kind of like learn that? Because like you said, you weren't really a user of Etsy prior to getting into Etsy, so.
Yeah, so I learned a lot of it the old-fashioned way of just like DIY, Google, YouTube, just like trying to pick up pieces here and there. It probably took me a couple weeks to actually get like a firm grasp on what I was doing on the platform. But, after you kind of, it's like riding a bike. Once you figure it out once, and once you understand where things go and, where to type certain things and where to click, then it's pretty much like clockwork. So I would say for me, and again, I probably wasn't using the best tools and resources. Like I was just kind of piecemealing stuff together because I was like a hardcore DIYer. And I also, honestly, if I could have gone back in time, I probably would have like invested in, a coach or a course or something. But I was like so damn frugal, and I'm still constantly struggling with that. Like oftentimes I'll try to take the harder path just because I don't want to spend the money on something, and it ends up being like 12 hours where maybe I could have just paid someone $10 and it would have taken half an hour. I still struggle with that today, but yeah, it probably took me a couple weeks.
We may dig into that because I went through that process in my own FI journey of ultra frugality, and then realizing like, wait a minute, like, isn't our time the most valuable resource? Like, what am I doing? So we may jump into that, but we'll see. Okay, so you found a majority of your success with Etsy. What were the other things that contributed to you achieving that millionaire status at 26? And help me understand, Etsy launch, what age were you when you first got into Etsy?
Let's see, 22?
If you remember.
Yeah, 22. So yeah, I know I'm jumping back and forth my timeline here. This is like right around, again, I was doing a million side hustles going into that book tour with Grant. Like I was trying everything under the sun because I had that master 1 year plan where I was going to leave my corporate job. So my Etsy journey had started then, but I didn't start taking it seriously until like. Okay, no,
this is super helpful, and it's okay to jump around. So I just want to clarify the timeline for people because I want to give everyone an idea of how long a journey can take, and I think your journey seems incredibly fast because you're so freaking young, but the truth is you kind of started at 18, and then you finally hit millionaire status at what, 25? Yeah, which is still incredible. I mean, that's 7 years, and nothing to wave your hand at. That's incredibly quick, but you still put in 7 solid years of trying to figure it out. Great. So you're at 22, and then 4 years or 3-ish years later, you're a millionaire. What other things besides Etsy were you doing to build your path to financial independence?
So beginning of the pandemic, actually, I started investing in real estate. And the reason for that was I had so many people on my podcast who had achieved amazing things through real estate. And I was like, I've now interviewed over 100 people, like 30, 40, 50 of these people have had real estate as part of their journey. I don't own any real estate. Maybe I should give it a try. So started looking in my home state of Massachusetts, and the price to rent ratios, and what that means is like the price of the property versus how much you can rent it for, were just crazy. Like they weren't maybe not as crazy as California, but they weren't making much sense at all. So I ended up actually jumping the border down to Connecticut and started seeing some decent deals and started touring properties and, started doing all the things that you need to do to get ready to buy a property, getting approved by the lender, and just doing my homework. And we ended up closing on a 3-family in September, I think, of 2020. And again, I had started at the beginning of 2020 looking at properties. So I do want to kind of hammer this home this episode. Like, I'm not an overnight success story by any means. I'm consistently taking action and unafraid to fail in most things. Obviously I still struggle with that sometimes, but closed on that first property September of 2020, and my now fiance Lauren and I actually moved into it. We were living in the basement unit, and we were renting out the top 2 units, which were both 3-bed, 1-bath. So we were actually making over $1,000 a month by living there. Whereas most people are paying a lot of money to live somewhere, we were getting paid, which is amazing.
Hey there, just a few words about the incredible show sponsors for today's episode, and then we'll dig right back in. Today's show is brought to you by Veg Nutrition. Live better. So I'm actually a Veg elite athlete, and before I joined the team, I spent months doing my due diligence to make sure that the company was vision, mission, and value aligned with me, my values, my mission, my vision, and my lifestyle. I got to know the owners super well. I even got to know the person who formulates all the products, and they passed with flying colors. So I couldn't be more excited to represent a company that I feel so aligned with. And I want to tell you about 2 of my favorite products. The first is the Veg pre-workout. So when I first went vegan, or mostly vegan, the last thing for me to go fully vegan was finding a vegan pre-workout that gave me the focus, the energy, and the power that I was looking for. And I can tell you, this is the best pre-workout that I've ever had. It gives me incredible focus and energy. And what's probably the best is it leaves me with no crash after I take it, which is great. And the flavors are so freaking good. There's literally peach mango and a Patriot Pop that tastes like, the firecracker popsicles, cherry lemon lime flavor. They're literally so good that I can dry scoop them. And they just released a watermelon flavor for just in time for summer, and it's incredible. So that's the first product. The second product is arguably also my favorite, and that's the plant protein. Comes in 3 incredible flavors: chocolate peanut butter, vanilla ice cream, and cold brew coffee. Yep, you heard me. Cold brew coffee flavor. It tastes incredible, all 3 flavors. 25 grams of protein, fully organic, incredible ingredients, heavy metal tested, and it is my go-to post-workout. Make sure that I'm recovering and refueling and giving my muscles the protein that they need to rebuild for that next workout. So go to vegnutrition.com/dragon and try their full line of supplements, and you'll get 15% off. Or you can just use Dragon at checkout and you'll get 15% off. So that's vegnutrition.com/dragon to get 15% off. Veg Nutrition, live better. And real quick, for listeners who are unaware what that is called house hacking.
Yeah.
And it's a tool that really anyone can use to get the financial independence faster. It's much easier to do when you're young and you either are unmarried or single or don't have kids, but it is definitely a tool that a lot of younger FI people I know pulled to get them to FI even faster. And we can leave some resources in the show notes if people are interested in learning more about the house hacking, as well as like everything from like Mr. Money Mustache and Tim Ferriss. And we'll leave lots of links to all the different, including Fi Show, of course, which I'm going to be a guest on in the near future. So don't worry, you don't need to go Googling or searching for stuff right now. We'll put it all in the show notes for you. Okay, perfect. So you're doing your first house hack in 2020. The beginning of 2020, your three bedroom family. Three family. Oh, so it's like a townhouse type thing. Ah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Like
we
a
weren't
triplex.
like sharing rooms. Yeah. We were renting out separate units.
Good
from
clarity.
us. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So
take us from there.
Bought that in September of 2020, and now we were like in the real estate game. So I guess I don't know how it all unfolded actually. An agent that was representing a property about a quarter mile away, had this distressed seller. They just needed the cash fast and they wanted to close. There were some issues with the property, but we were willing to tackle it. Ended up negotiating down, and in today's market, even in Connecticut, this is unheard of. We ended up buying a duplex for $170K. And again, this is a quarter mile away from that first property we bought, and started renting that thing out. We had to put about 15 or 20 grand in renovations just because there was some issues with it, but it was a solid property and a solid location, and we, the cash flow made sense, all the numbers made sense. So we bought that in November of 2020, which again is only 2 months after that first purchase, so was kind of throwing a decent amount of money at down payments, but we were living super frugally, so everything that I was making in all of those other online ventures I've been talking about was going straight for down payments and the stock market and other investments. And then actually a month after that, we were sick of living in Connecticut because we were, this is such a first world complaint. We were annoyed that we were an hour away from all of our friends and family. So we bought a rental property in the town next to our hometown. And that one is another house hack of sorts, where we actually, and this is where I'm recording this from today, I'm worth like over $1 million, making a lot of money every year. And the house we're living in right now, we live in a 1-bed, 1-bath detached structure. It's big enough for both of us. It's like probably 750, 800 square feet. Next door, like 50 feet away from us, it's part of the same property, is a 4-bed, 2-bath apartment attached to 600 square feet of office space. So we rent out all of that. Me and my fiance Lauren live here, and we're making $1,200 a month in living expenses, which is really cool. So and we just kind of kept doing that, and ended up buying another property the following year. Very recently, I guess this didn't help us get to $1 million, but very recently we started getting into Airbnb. But it was to get to that $1 million mark, it was those 3 properties mixed with all the online side hustles I was doing, mixed with investing in a roaring bull market, and it allowed me to hit that $1 million mark a couple months after my 25th birthday, which was so crazy, and I never ever could have expected myself getting to that milestone so fast.
That's one thing I try to tell everybody who discovers financial independence and actually starts to get into it. When you first get into it, you think it's gonna take forever, but then when you commit to the path, it literally takes like way less than you think it will. Like in my own experience, I thought it was going to take me like forever, and I'll share my story another time, but I literally went from under 100,000 to like to a millionaire in 2 years. And like if you had told me that I would do that like even a month before I discovered FI, I'd be like, yeah, right, like I'm not going to be a millionaire, like maybe never, maybe when I'm like 50 or 60. And then when you get the framework, the knowledge, the tools, and like the friends and the network, like then it just gets so fast and so fun, because you have all these people who are on the same path with you, and they inspire and energize you, and like perfect, like you're a perfect example. All these opportunities that you could have never predicted, Cody, like just showed up, like just like synchronicity, like just like landed at your feet because you went down this path and you weren't afraid to like just learn and explore and try new things on. And like, I mean, you did it like at such a young age. I always say to people, I'm 40 now, you're 26. If I had known what I know now in my 20s, like I would easily be a decamillionaire now instead of just a multimillionaire. And it's just, I'm just so stoked that you're on the show, because I think there's a lot of people that will listen to this that are either they're either in their 20s and trying to get it figured out, or they're closer to my age and they're like, wait, Justin didn't figure this out until he was like, I think I discovered FI in November of 2017. So, and then it was 2 years after that in 2017. I can't do the math in my head. Whatever 1982 minus 2017 is. So whatever age that was, around like 35, 36.
35, yeah.
There we go. Yeah. So you don't even have to be strong at math, addition and subtraction to achieve phi. So that's incredible, dude. I really appreciate you sharing your story. I do want to dig into real estate a little bit. This is a personal kind of interest. I've strategically stayed out of real estate because I don't want to do any extra work. Like, I'm super lazy. Like, I want to earn money doing things that are like really fun and interesting to me. And I think for some people, real estate could be a ton of fun and super interesting. And I think you're one of those people because you're such an entrepreneur. But like, let's say there's somebody who has like zero interest in kind of like doing more work and is more passionate about, say, like starting a podcast or an online coaching program like I am. Like, what would you say to somebody like me? And like, I want your honest opinion, not just because you found success in real estate. Like, give me some feedback.
If you have zero ambition to invest in real estate, then don't invest in real estate in a physical way. What I mean by that is you can still have access to real estate. If you're an accredited investor like you are, Justin, you could definitely start getting involved in syndications, where at that point you're just kind of giving money to these, whether it's a developer or an investor or someone who's going to take care of all that legwork for you. Like, it's super passive. I'm actually invested in a couple of syndications myself. Or if you aren't an accredited investor, and an accredited investor, by the way, for anyone listening, someone who has over $1 million net worth or makes over $200,000 a year. But if you're not an accredited investor, you can invest in REITs, which are real estate investment trusts. And that, it's slightly different and it doesn't give you the same tax advantages, but that gives you access to the asset class real estate without having to, go and physically buy a rental property. You don't have to go house hunting. You don't have to be looking on the MLS and be talking to realtors. Like, it's super hands off. Now, what I will say, and I know you don't want me to pitch real estate too hard, so I won't, but it was a reason why I was able to accelerate my net worth so quickly, because the market's just been absolutely nuts over the past couple of years. Is if you set up the systems correctly, if you have a property manager, if you have all your maintenance taken care of, if you have a really good agent, if you have someone that can show the property for you, and you could even go so far as having like a full-time bookkeeper with one property, which is probably overkill. But honestly, me and my fiance Lauren spend probably 4 to 5 hours a month managing the properties. And this isn't, we just set up an Airbnb, so this is exclusive of that. But our long-term rental properties, like, once they're all set up, once, the legwork's at the beginning, once they're all set up, once you have tenants in place, once you have a team, once you have someone managing the properties for you, you're just kind of making sure that all the boxes are checked. You're making sure that the rents are coming in, that everything is being handled that should be handled. I like to, anyway, take a look over the books. But, this is a business that can be mostly automated, as long, the really important part is just getting a team that you trust in place. I've heard of people getting burned by property managers, people like stealing from them, people maybe not making the wisest decisions or in their best interest. But I also know other people who have, 50, 100 doors or units, and they're spending a couple hours a month managing that. And it's offering them an immense amount of financial freedom and time flexibility. And, they're traveling the world with these properties. So I think it can be argued from both sides. I don't want to tell everyone that they have to, invest in real estate. But if you want exposure to real estate and you don't even want to spend those 4 hours or set up the team or any of that initial legwork, then REITs or syndications are a great option.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, if I were to get into syndication, I would be a hard money lender, correct? Is that?
No, you would actually be an equity partner.
No. Ah, okay. And then how would somebody like me get into syndication?
Probably just networking, like everything else, I guess. Is like just getting into different real estate groups. How I have found all the people I've worked with syndications is through referrals. So I have friends who, they have just a bunch of extra money and they want exposure to real estate and they don't want to do the legwork of buying their own property, but they want to experience all the tax benefits and, all the upside and all the rents and stuff. And again, you're an equity partner. So with a syndication, let's say they're raising $10 million and you put in $100,000. Oh God, I was going to try to do that math in my head. You would own whatever percentage of that like million with your 100,000 down, or 10 million. So what is it? 1%. Something like that. Yeah, 1%. I think that sounds about right. So like if the property appreciates, you are a 1% stakeholder essentially in that property. Like investing in stocks, you whatever percentages of shares you have of that company, you're also, experiencing that gain, or if the property sells, you're getting a piece of that. So in terms of getting into syndications though, it's all networking. Like I would strongly caution people, if you're just like in a real estate group and someone's like, I'm a syndicator, come join my syndication, probably walk in the other direction. You want to get referrals. You want people with a proven track record. So that's how I found all the people I've worked with, is like my real estate investor friends. They're like, hey, I've done a couple deals with this person. They seem awesome. They have a 15-year track record doing this stuff. And I'm like, all right, boom. And that's just another level of trust for me.
I know how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to have more real estate investors on my podcast until they all become my friends, and one of them asked me to be a part of their syndication. I'm going to do what you did, is just like keep bringing on people. And, I learned this from your show that I was listening to last night, and last night with Emily Williams. She made that comment that your network becomes your net worth. And you and I both leveraged that like super hardcore. We just got ourselves around the right people, and constantly worked on expanding that network to include the people that were living the life and had the financial means that you and I wanted. So I think that's a really incredible just call out for anyone in the audience who's trying to understand how to get to the next level. Is you have to invest in your network, whether that's joining a mastermind, joining a coaching program, going to meetups. There's plenty of ways to do it paid, plenty of ways to do it for free. I mean, literally, you can start your own mastermind. That's what I did, and that didn't cost me anything. So I really appreciate the honest feedback. I've been curious about real estate, honestly, for years. I keep thinking about getting into it. So I think, potential like syndication may be the right way for me to go, just because I love all aspects of like money making. And it's fun to just have, different buckets in which you're kind of, creating diversity in your investments and your overall financial plan. And it's just like fun to learn, as long as you're going down an endeavor that is, suited to your lifestyle, to your interests, and to like your level of commitment in terms of like hours. There's no wrong or right way to do it. So I appreciate you kind of like calling that out for me. I do want to go back to frugality, because you and I both share that. And I think there's some pretty funny stories. I think you're kind of still in it more than me. I'll set the stage with a few funny stories about my own frugality when I first discovered FI. So after I discovered FI, and this is, I love Mr. Money Mustache to death, but like his his theme is like frugality, like financial independence through like badass frugality. And I like jumped on that like it was the next best thing. And I literally stopped spending on everything, literally stopped going out to eat. I even said to my wife, I don't want to go to the movies anymore because I don't want to spend the money. And that that led to a breakdown in the relationship. But let's talk about your frugality, and then we can talk about how I'm kind of like a recovering frugalist, if that's a word. And yeah, so I'm throw it over to you. You're in the like, you, similar to me, use your frugality to help kind of like speed your way to FI, which I want to call out to a lot of people. Like, one of the ways to speed your way to FI is being super frugal in the beginning until you build up a certain like level of net worth, and you have a snowball that starts to continue to roll on its own. Now, it's not the only way. There are many different ways. There's kind of three parts to financial independence. There's saving, there's earning, and there's investing. And you can work, and there may be some more that Cody can share, but those three, you can kind of decide which do you want to pull the hardest. You can pull all three kind of in even keel to each other, or you can go super hard on like earning and not so hard on saving, or really any which way. But Did I miss anything in that saving, earning, and investing? And then, if not, let's talk about your frugality.
I don't think you missed anything. What I will say is you can only pull some of those levers so far. So with earning, I mean, that lever can be pulled as much as you possibly want. I mean, the world is kind of your oyster if you have an abundance mindset. Like, you can only frugal yourself to such a low floor. You can't get below zero with your expenses, unfortunately. So I'll say that it's an important lever to pull, but some of these other levers can be more powerful if you want a really quick path to financial independence. Like if you're making 40K a year right now, you can be the frugalest person in the world. You probably won't hit FI in the next 2 or 3 years. It's just the math just won't work out unless you literally have zero expenses and you're living off the land. Kudos to you if you're doing that. In terms of frugality, though, I really liked what you said. Is it's not a permanent solution to hitting financial independence, and I get that from a lot of people my age. Is Cody, I don't want to drive a crappy car. I want a nice apartment. I want this nice car. It's like that's fine, but you were just a college kid or you're just a high school student, depend on their background. You were already kind of used to living with less. You're used to living with nothing. Like why, when you all of a sudden get a $60,000 a year job or 70 or 80, do you have to go lease a car or you have to go get a nice apartment? Like if you can even for 3 years live super frugally and invest the difference and focus on side hustles and focus on investing and even investing in yourself, you can just get so much farther ahead. Like if I 3 years ago went and I probably could have got an apartment and a car and all these things, but now since I kind of held out, I could, and I'm not going to, go buy a Lamborghini and buy a $2 million house. Am I going to do those things? Probably not at this point in my life anyway. But, kind of playing that waiting game and letting frugality run its train on my financial independence journey has really, really helped me. So I don't want to crap on frugality too much, but I do think, to your point, Justin, that there is a point in time where maybe you have to let the frugal reins up a little bit. Once you've hit, a certain net worth status, or once you're at this percentage of your journey to financial independence, maybe, you get the more expensive food that's better for you. Or maybe you stop house hacking and sharing the house with other people. Or maybe you get a car that's not rattling anymore. And, I'm not, everyone's journey is different and everyone has different levels of comfortability with different things. But if you do want to, hit financial independence faster, I think frugality at the beginning is important. But then you also, and I think honestly, coming from financially independent minds, Justin, sometimes we're a little bit biased. I think most people should probably start with frugality because that's the easiest way, in my opinion, to change your financial situation. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, if you've never really studied or, been comfortable with personal finance before, cutting out some expenses is probably easier than like picking up a side hustle, or maybe you don't have time for a new side hustle, or maybe you just don't have the gap between the income and the expenses to start investing. So I think for the average person who's never really seriously looked at their finances before, frugality is an awesome lever to start with. But like I was saying before, it has a floor. You can only frugal yourself to some point, and then at some point you're gonna have to start investing and making more money. But yeah, man, frugality has been awesome. It's got me to where I am today. But I don't think if I want to keep accelerating in business and in life, I don't think it's gonna help me get to the next level. What got me there is not, or what got me here isn't gonna get me there. So I need to let go of some of the frugality in certain aspects of life.
Hey there, just a few words about the incredible show sponsors for today's episode, and then we'll dig right back in. This show is brought to you by Feel Free from Botanic Tonics. This product is unlike anything I've ever had before. No joke. It's made with kava root and other ancient plants, and just half a shot gives me this incredible sense of focused flow and productivity. And I love to take just half a shot right before I work out. I take it with my pre-workout, and it takes my workouts to the next level. It is seriously unlike anything I've ever had. It's also an incredible productivity tool for any big work projects that you have, or long periods of time where you just need to be super focused in flow state and get a lot of shit done. So if you want to give this a shot, you can go to botanictonics.com and use code DRAGON at checkout to get 40% off your first order. No joke, 40% off with code DRAGON. That's Feel Free from botanictonics.com, code DRAGON. Feel free, feel good. Yeah. To share with the audience, one way to approach frugality is like a fun game that you're going to play for, 3 months, 6 months, a year, maybe 2 years, until you develop that base level of, net worth that then starts to work for you. And that's what I did. I just like I was hyper frugal for 2 years. And in that 2 years, I became a millionaire. And it was like, I just made a freaking game out of all of it. And it was like, I actually had a ridiculous amount of fun doing it and being frugal and just seeing how frugal I could be. And really important to get on the same page. If you have a partner, a wife, a husband, a significant other, you need to kind of get on the same page. So one thing that was really important for me was in my relationship with my wife was we decided that it was okay for me to be as freaking frugal as I wanted. And it was okay for her to just be however she wanted because, we both have our own spending money. And so for me, I was like, well, it's more fun for me to be ultra frugal. Like, I don't want to go out to eat, but you can still go out to eat and like eat out with your friends because like that is important to her. And there's nothing wrong with that. And, spending money on other things was important to her. And I think people in relationships often think that like you both have to do the exact same thing. Like if you're going to be ultra frugal, both of you have to be ultra frugal. I'm living proof that like one person can be ultra frugal and the other one can just be financially savvy with their spending. They don't have to go to the extreme. And she kept like a good level of balance in our life, making sure that we weren't frugaling ourselves into a corner, which is what a lot of like people do. So it's great to make it a fun game, but then you start to reach this point where you start to realize like, okay, and I think that you're at the inflection point, Cody. You start to realize like, okay, I have a sizable amount of money. Like, how do I continue to optimize my overall life experience and actually use that money to not only create like a life that you truly love, but to actually amplify your wealth building, where you actually start to spend money to make more money. And I think you're kind of like starting to get there. And I've been exploring that in addition to like, okay, what are the things that I didn't spend money on the first 2 years that if I now started to add back in, it would bring like a sizable amount of satisfaction or ease or comfort or just be more aligned with the person that I'm becoming. And it's been fun exploring that. And I'll give you like one example. So Cody, I'm super passionate about like health and well-being in general. Prior to discovering Phi, I would get like 1 to 3 massages a month. And then I discovered Phi and I was like, I'm not paying for massage. I'll massage myself with a foam roller. And then over the last, year or two, I've been like, health is wealth. One of my great friends, one of like my mentors, he always like says that to me, like health is wealth. And so for me, like getting a massage is one of those things that just like feels so incredible just for my overall like well-being. I work out 6 to 7 days a week. I'm very passionate about working out hard, but as I've gotten older, like the rest and recovery is equally important, if not more important. So now, I get 1 to 3 massages again. But I'm being smart about it, right? Like I could go to the Four Seasons and do a spa day and, drop $1,000 and I would be totally fine. But instead I'm doing like 2-hour Thai massages at like a local Thai place. It's nice, but it's not like the Ritz-Carlton or anything. And like, that's more than enough to like anytime I get a massage, I'm like, oh, that was an incredible day, a great week. And I feel so good about investing in my long-term well-being. So I'm curious, like, now that you've passed the FI mark, is there any areas where you're starting to kind of invest in your overall, like, life experience and not like holding the reins so tight?
Yeah, two things come to mind. So I've definitely probably mid 2021 after I hit the million mark, we used to just buy the cheapest groceries possible and like agnostic of whether, it was has pesticides all over it or, that animal probably wasn't treated very well. And it was just because it was cheap. But now we're in the position like we are very intentional about all the groceries we buy. We're like buying local. I know, you're not a meat buyer, Justin, but we started doing like butcher box subscription, which I could have never dreamed about doing when I was first starting FI. Like it's like $160, $170 a month to get this like farm, it's grass fed, grass finished, like all wild caught fish. Like it's not the factory farming that you see in all these horrible documentaries that made me actually go vegan for a couple months initially. So definitely food is one area that I started spending a lot more money on than I was previously, probably like 2 or 3x. Another is mindset. So I actually joined a mastermind at the beginning of this year. And, I could have never imagined paying for a mastermind. It's $15,000 for the year, and it's been well worth the investment so far. And it's helped me like expand not only my mindset, but like in my businesses as well. And again, I never could have imagined spending that kind of money on a friggin' mastermind. I was like, what am I doing? And just like on the financial side, that was like mindset and health. I mentioned before, like I've been investing in syndications, and like it's kind of giving someone else the reins to my money, which is a really scary thought, especially thinking back to when I was just like DIY Cody doing everything myself. I didn't need any help from anyone else, and like I can do this thing alone. And now I actually did my first angel investment as well. I invested in a personal finance app, so now I'm starting to like do fun, creative things with my money. Now that I'm in this position, it is Topia, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so
that's awesome.
So I'm doing like these fun, creative things with my money, bettering my mind, my health, my wealth, things that, I was just kind of going through the motions before, being super frugal, investing, throwing all my money into retirement accounts and then brokerage accounts and then real estate. But now it's like I have more experimental freedom with my money. And so I've been slowly using it to upgrade my life. I'm sure, if we come back in 5 years, I'll have even more upgrades to my life as my net worth continues to grow and as I become less and less risk averse. But yeah, I gotta say over the past year has been like life changing in terms of reinvesting back into myself.
Yeah. So I'm on the same page. Over the last 2 years, year or two, I've really been investing in personal development, and that's one of those. The comment I made where you have to spend money to make more money. That is like one of those areas. Personal development, whether it's joining a mastermind, getting a coach, or signing up for like workshops, whether they're online or in person. Those are the type of things that if you take them serious, and when you put your money into it, especially if you're coming from like a path of or a past of being pretty frugal, you take it freaking serious. You want to maximize your return on your investment, so you actually do the work. Those I can't even factor in like I paid thousands of dollars for personal development stuff over the last year or two, and it's like the highest ROI investments that I've been making, just in not only just money but just like life happiness, right? And you can't put a price on life happiness. Like, and to jump back to your food thing, so I stopped eating out for 2 years, but I was still committed to like eating like organic as much as possible wherever possible. And that was like one area for me that was really important, to not sacrifice my budget. So like I wasn't into like, I didn't mind cooking like beans from scratch, but they had to be organic beans. And then I got to the point I was like, I'm just gonna get canned beans because I'm too freaking lazy, until we got an Instant Pot. Like I think one great thing to point out, and I learned this from Scott Trench, who is another FI person and a fellow podcaster. But there's like 3 kind of like big pieces to think about, big pieces of cost and expenses that you can focus on. And if you get these 3 in order, then it's like the rest of the FI journey is really easy. The first and biggest one is your housing. So if you can keep your housing down, expenses as low as possible, at least in the beginning, it really supercharges your path forward to FI. Easiest way to do that is like house hacking or living with your parents if you want to get like super crazy. For some people that's crazy, for some people that's not crazy. The second one is your food. That's usually the second biggest expense, and then the third one is your car. So if you can optimize two of those three, or even one, like you'll go so much faster. If you can optimize all three for at least a brief period of time, you'll go super fast. But like for me, yeah. So I stopped eating out because as just the type of person I am, I'm super into fitness. So I love cooking at home and kind of like, really making sure everything I'm eating is amazing for me. So that was like, I saved on eating out, which, I have a friend who I've just started to get into financial independence, and I had him start tracking his money. And a week later, he came back to me. He said, Justin, I spent $10,000 on food last month, most of it eating out. And I was like, holy shit, like what the fuck, like yeah. 10 grand. But like he had no idea until he started tracking. And a lot of people don't realize how much money they spend on eating out or food in general. And you can still eat out and just be smarter about how you do it, and drastically cut back your expenses. And I think, Cody, to circle back to you saying like really everyone should start with frugality. I don't necessarily, because I think frugal is a really charged word and like no one wants to be like frugal. I think people should start with their expenses because there's always fat to cut in your expenses. And I have friends who make $700,000-$800,000 a year and they're paycheck to paycheck. Literally, if they lost their job, they would be out of their house and like all their cars lost in 2 to 3 months. And those people have so much financial fat to cut. And then they can start to build wealth and start to build that runway where they're not like constantly in fear of like the house of cards coming tumbling down. Because like, unfortunately, most people fall prey to lifestyle creep. As you earn more money, you spend more money. So you never actually develop any net worth. You never actually create any wealth for yourself. You're just building this house of cards. So I would like to reframe and encourage everyone. The first place to start on your FI journey is with your expenses. If you want to go hardcore frugal for a period of time to supercharge your journey, you can. If you just want to be smart about your expenses or get educated about your expenses, that's an equally great way to do it. You just need to actually start to be aware of your expenses. Anything to add there, Cody?
Yeah, I think we're on the same page here, just in terms of terminology. The reason I said frugality, I meant the exact same thing as you. It's just like cutting the fat on your budget, like looking at your expenses. Where can I pare this down? Maybe I don't need to eat out however many times a month it takes to hit $10,000. Maybe I can, cook a couple nights at home, and now I'm only spending $6,000 out. Like that $4,000 that I saved from, looking at my expenses and frugaling down a little bit, that can go a long way. I just thought of a funny story because you were asking before. I realized I didn't give you a funny frugal story, Justin. So
give me one.
One of the many side hustles I tried was doing Uber Eats on a bicycle. And I was living in Australia at the time. And I didn't have a bike because, I just packed a suitcase and went over there. And so I go on Gumtree, which is like the Australian version of Craigslist, and I find a pink bike for $25. It was a women's bike. Go check it out. It's stuck in fourth gear. It's a piece of shit, but I'm like, I'm not going to spend more than $25. So I end up buying this bike to deliver food. And man, I ended up getting 2 1-star reviews. So picture like a place as hilly as San Francisco. That was like the area I was delivering in. I have a bike that's stuck in fourth gear, and it's not like a 21 gear bike. It's like a 7 gear kid's bike. So I am like profusely sweating going up these hills. And I guess a couple people I delivered food to, I was sweating on their food, and they gave me a 1-star review saying their Uber driver was sweaty. And yeah, if I just spent maybe $100, 75 even, I could have got a bike with the gears, and I wouldn't have sweat all over those poor people's food. So that's just
But you want to have this incredible story to share with me on the show. But like, it's like I have ridiculous stories like that too. Like none are coming to mind, but it's just like it's almost fun to go frugal. Maybe you just do a 1 month challenge with you and your significant other. Like, how frugal and ridiculous that can we be, so we can make some fun like Instagram stories about it or Facebook posts, and just like literally treat it like a crazy adventure you're just going to try for 1 month and see, and I did the math on that. Like, if someone who's spending $10,000 on food a month, like cut it down to 6, and they're like saving $4,000 a month, like at the end of the year, that's $48,000 that they could have like invested, or at least just saved, right? And they didn't even have to invest it. But like, when you start to look at your expenses, you start to see like, oh, there's like all these different places that you can start to save, $100 here, $1,000 here. And then when you actually go through the process, suddenly you realize like, wow, I just freed up like thousands of dollars a month. And then you compound that over time, or add it up over time, then you have a sizable amount. And then if you invest it, it then starts compounding. And like Einstein said, like compound interest is like the eighth wonder of the world. So enough about frugality. You mentioned travel. Let's talk a little bit about travel, because obviously you're super passionate about it. You're skiing with your 5 friends someplace when you're first like making your Etsy money. You're in another country doing Uber Eats on a child's bike that only has fourth gear that you spent $25 on. Like, let's talk about your passion for travel.
Yeah, me and my fiance Lauren are both like obsessed with travel, just immersing ourselves in different cultures, trying different foods, learning different languages, just seeing how other people live. So ever since we started traveling together, which was the first big trip we did was Australia, we actually ended up living there for almost 6 months. And, I was actually, this is a whole nother story. I had graduated early and I had a big chunk of time before my job started. But yeah, we ended up living there for 6 months. But ever since then, we just kind of fell in love with travel and, picking up, going somewhere new, starting a new routine. And again, the food, the culture, the people. So as I've been building out these businesses, I've been very intentional to have like as hands-off businesses as possible. So like truly Tim Ferriss 4-hour work week or less. So building up businesses that can scale, hiring people under me so I don't have to do the day-to-day stuff. And at this point, like we just came back from a month out we did 2 weeks in Portugal, we did a week in France, and we did a week in Italy, all of May 2022. I worked probably half an hour to an hour a day during the week, and everything was fine. Like all the businesses were still running smoothly. Our real estate was fine. Like we've just set up the teams and the systems. So at this point, we can basically travel around whenever we want, which I never could have imagined being in this position a couple of years ago. But we both are work remote, and time agnostic too. So it's not just like we have to be 9 to 5 in the US. We can just get the stuff that needs to get done at pretty much any time. So travel's been huge for us. I expect we're going to continue our travels, and we try to just do like slower travel. So instead of going like on the typical American, 7-day cruise or something, we'll kind of set up tent, however you want to call it, in a place for a couple of weeks at a time and start to like really live there. Like we'll get a gym membership. We'll go to the grocery store. We'll start to like walk around instead of just like hitting all the main attractions. At the end of the vacation, you're exhausted and you're probably like hungover because you've been like getting hammered every day. We try not to do that. We try to actually like experience and live it. And that's kind of become a part of my identity.
Hey there, just a few words about the incredible show sponsors for today's episode, and then we'll dig right back in. Today's show is brought to you by Fit Rich Vegan. If you're ready to get in the best shape of your life, double your income, and 10x your savings and investments, then this is the coaching program for you. But wait a minute, Dragon. Isn't this your coaching program? Heck yeah, it is. I spent the last 8 years mastering my fitness and my finances, and I've built an incredible coaching program with an incredible team to help you get the body of your dreams and finally achieve that level of financial success that you've been seeking. So if you want to find out if you're a good fit for the program, go to fitrichvegan.com and book your free consultation today. Or you can just DM me on Instagram with the words fitrichvegan, and we can chat about if it's going to be a good fit for you. I'm committed to empowering people to actually achieve their fitness and financial goals. I spent the last 20 years trying to figure this out on my own. And what I realized is the key to doing it is not doing it alone. You have to have coaches, you have to have mentors, and you have to be a part of masterminds. And that's exactly what Fit Rich Vegan has. It has coaches, mentors, and it is a mastermind. So again, if you're ready to book your free consultation today, go to fitrichvegan.com or drop me a DM on Instagram. That's awesome. Yeah, so flow travel is really incredible. And it sounds like you're very similar to me. Like, I'm the easiest person to please when it comes to travel. I just want to stay in an Airbnb in like a cool neighborhood with the locals, and I want to go to the grocery store, and I want to go to the gym, and like even if I just like go work out, cook food in the Airbnb, and that's like all I did in the day, and like maybe walked around the neighborhood, I'm like, oh my god, that was such an adventure, because it's just so fun to like live another lifestyle in another country. And I'm definitely not one of those people who wants to do 3 big activities in one day, where you go to this tourist site and that tourist site and do this activity. I'd rather do like one every other day, if that, and kind of just like really feel like I'm living there, but also getting a little bit of kind of like that tourist hit. So that's super cool. Do you have any tips for people who are looking to get into traveling more efficiently? I'm sure you're into travel hacking
big time.
So tell people a little bit about what travel hacking is, because for a lot of people this show is just like loaded with like terminology, house hacking, FI.
We're trying to explain it all.
Travel hacking, like what are all these crazy things?
Yeah, so just real quick before I dive into travel hacking, for those who maybe don't want to kind of get into the credit card game, because you do have to be financially responsible to do this travel hacking thing. I think what you said about Airbnb, like a lot of people that have not traveled internationally before don't understand how much cheaper and how much better it is to get an Airbnb. And it's like literally a fraction of the cost of most hotels. So if you're sleeping on Airbnb, no pun intended, definitely go check it out the next vacation that you're on. But back to travel hacking. So basically, in a nutshell, and this is like the easiest form of travel hacking, you are signing up for a credit card. You're hitting the sign-up bonus for that credit card. So for example, a Chase card might have a promo. Spend $4,000 in the next 3 months and you'll get 60,000 Chase points. Now, after you get that sign-up bonus, you get the points, like 60,000 Chase points, for example. That's enough from some places in the U.S. for a round trip to Europe for free. So for example, we just did a round trip to Lisbon, my fiance Lauren and I, completely free, just covered by our points. And that's from one credit card sign up. You could have got enough points to fly to do the same flights we did from Boston to Lisbon round trip for 2 people. So in essence, the easiest form of travel hacking, you can get like one card, 2 cards per year if you don't want to get crazy with it. There's some people that get like 25 cards in a year. You don't have to do that. But seriously, like you get 1 card toward the beginning of the year, you hit the sign-up bonus, now you have like 60,000 points sitting in an account. You get another card in the middle of the year and you get another 60,000 points. Like if you're someone who goes on a normal amount of vacations and you're just taking time off from your job and you want 2 free flights for you and a significant other, or you and a friend, boom, that's it. It's 2 credit card signups. Now, what I'll say to preface, I don't want people abusing credit cards and using them irresponsibly. Make sure if you're going to try this that you're paying off the cards in full at the end of every month, so that you're paying nothing in interest to the credit card companies. Because the only reason the credit card companies have these bonuses and these programs is because most people get suckered in and they end up, maybe they do hit the minimum spend, but now they have a $4,500, $5,000 balance on their card and they're paying minimum payments, and the credit card company just eating that up, taking all those interest payments from you. So if you're going to try this strategy, please be responsible and pay off those credit cards every single month and use it like you would a debit card. If you don't have the money to pay it off, do not spend the money to buy the things.
Yeah. I may have to get Chris Hutchins on the show to talk like more about it because he's like super into it.
Yeah.
He has a great podcast called All the Hacks if people want to learn more about really just hacking finances in life in general, but he has a special focus on travel hacking. What are some other great resources for people who are like, travel hacking? And just to say, I just went to Mexico to Merida and Tulum, all on points, like round trip, didn't pay anything. So it's Cody's not making it up. I'm also a travel hacker. But what are some of your favorite resources, or like when someone's interested in it, that you send them to?
I got to give a shout out to the website Doctor of Credit, and they're, in my personal opinion, one of the best resources out there because, unfortunately, a lot of these, travel miles companies, the ones that have all the tips and stuff, they just recommend the cards that give them the most money. And so you might get a really biased opinion if you're looking to like sign up for a certain credit card or just get more information on like what's the best card for this trip. So Doctor of Credit is actually unbiased, and they might make less money than these other companies, these other websites, but you're getting, straight from the source, like actual valid information on what cards have what sign up bonuses and what might be best for your situation.
Yeah. Awesome. We'll put that in the show notes. Great. Let's talk about, as we start to wrap up, both you and I are into like healthy competition. Let's talk about competition in business and sports. How do you view competition? I think it's obvious as an entrepreneur, you have a competitive spirit, but let's dive into competition. How do you think about it? Is it important to you? Is it healthy? Can competition be healthy?
Yeah, I actually used to be super jealous and not healthy competitor whatsoever. Like I was pissed when people were better than me at something, and I thought I'd outtrain them, or I thought that I should be better than them for whatever reason. But I've started to kind of reframe my thoughts around competition, and I start to more curiously look at what other people are doing. Why is this person better than me at X? And actually breaking down like the steps that it's going to take me to get there, like penciling them out. I'm like, okay, let's use health as an example. This person has, 2% less body fat than me, or this person's bench press is 100 pounds heavier. Like, what do I actually have to do to get there? And whether that's, going to the gym more often, restricting the diet, it's, doing different workouts, like, and actually mapping out what is going to get me there. Whereas before, I'd just be like, fuck that person. Like, they're ahead of me, and I'm pissed about it. But now it's more of like, I'm going to use this person that's ahead of me in whatever aspect of my life I'm looking at. I'm going to use them as a kind of a goalpost or a lighthouse, and I'm going to build the stepping stones to get to where that person's at. And that, in business, in health, in mindset has helped me tremendously. Just, I know you used, was it level up or up level? I'm not sure exactly what the terminology was there. I love that though. And just using other people as kind of the stepping stones for me personally, and, getting to that next rung. So I think, competition can be really unhealthy, and it can get really nasty, and people can cheat and they can get pissed if you beat them, but you can also use it constructively. Like, not everyone's out there to crush you. There's a lot of room in, especially in like health and fitness. Just because someone else is more healthy than you don't have to like shit on their genetics or like say they're lucky or something. Like, just go out and do it for yourself. And if you're in business and you have a competitor that's beating you, there's probably plenty of space in your market for both of you guys. So I would just say try to look at other people who are doing better than you that maybe in a past life you would get jealous about, and think about how you can actually build a roadmap for yourself to get to where they're at, or even further.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So I'm a huge proponent of healthy competition. Like, I surround myself with people who are more fit than me, that are wealthier than me, that are better at X, Y, Z than me. And instead of being like jealous and, envious, I like to call it like, I use them to create an envy atlas. So like a map towards like achieving what they've achieved. And the great thing is, most people want to talk and share about the stuff that they're super good at. They're happy to share like what they do, how they did it, and they want to pull you up or like help you level up your life if you're willing to kind of like drop the ego, drop the envy, drop the jealousy, and just instead like take on a mindset of like being inspired by them and let them know like, hey, you inspire me. Like, can I take you to coffee? Can I pick your brain? Is there something I could do for you to get in front of you? Can I go to a workout with you? Whatever it is. Or, a lot of these people like that are super good at something, they have a public, platform, whether it's Instagram. Literally, you can just like consume their content, and you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And the cool thing about the digital age is like you can literally just like spend time with them on social media, on their podcast, on their, if they've written any books. That's literally you're spending time and energy with them. So you don't have to physically even be with them. And like honestly, the fastest way to kind of like improve really any area of your life is to model someone else who's already where you want to be. So I couldn't agree more. Like I'm all about healthy competition and like really just taking on like the mindset of being inspired by like, there's just so many incredible people here on this planet. And like everyone I think has their own superpower. And if you can, recognize them for that superpower and recognize that if you're interested in their superpower, there's probably something in you that is just waiting to be catalyzed, because that may become a future superpower of yours, and that's why you noticed it.
I love that, man. That's amazing. Well, a quote actually that came to mind when you were talking about that, like looking up to people, was you'll never be criticized by someone who's doing better than you. And I don't know why, I really got struck by that quote. Like I was like, that is just like so true. Like the people that are higher than you, they're not pushing you down because you're not as good as them at something. Like they're serving as a role model. They could care less of what level you are in your journey. Like just look up to them, and it's only the people that you're leaving behind. Those are the people that are going to criticize you for making that change in your life, going after that side hustle, changing your diet, working out more, like whatever the thing might be. It's the people who are standing still that are going to be crapping on you. It's not the people that you're striving to be like.
Yeah. And I always like to point out, like, you don't have to drop your friends or your family as you continue to up level in your life, because maybe you're that person that inspires them to get to their next level. So like a lot of times people like, oh, like if I'm going to up level my network and who I hang out with, I have to like, end my relationships with all my friends. Not true at all. I have to like stop talking to my mom or my dad. Not true. You can literally become the lighthouse for them. And, we all are in this together, right? And we all have the capability in us to be of service to our friends, to our family, to our community. So you don't have to lose or disconnect from your friends and your family, your current friends and family. Just like don't be afraid to explore new friends, new community, groups and communities of people. So this is kind of like the last piece I want to talk about, relationships. You're super passionate about like making time for it and cultivating it. So let's get some thoughts on relationships from you, Cody.
Yeah, I mean, as many people who have been listening this far in the podcast have realized, relationships have been a huge reason why I've been able to build wealth so fast, why I've been able to just get to the level I'm at such an early age. And I've been really, really intentional. And, I didn't really recognize this until a couple years ago, but I've always been really intentional with relationships. Like when I was in college trying to get internships and networking with people on LinkedIn, like I had a whole friggin' spreadsheet. And I would like, write the person's name down, what I talked to them about, when I reached out, like some fun facts about them. So then when I talked to them again, I could, rekindle some of that old conversation that they probably forgot about that I did. And they're like, oh my God, you remembered that? So I have just always been really methodical about trying to keep up with, this is talking business relationships, and also giving before I get. And I never really understood that, like how if you give first, the getting comes back in multiples. And so like, for example, with the book tour, I didn't expect anything. I didn't know what to expect. I was hoping I'd get something. I hope I'd learn a few lessons from Grant, but he ended up inviting me on the book tour. We ended up becoming great friends. We still talk to this day, like every single week. And if I didn't give before I got, I never would have gotten there. And that's just happened so many times for me over and over again. Is like, I'll sacrifice some of my time, my energy, my money to help someone who is just asking me for help. And, sometimes it doesn't lead anywhere, and that's totally fine. They're just, getting some of my energy, money, time, whatever. But a lot of times it's really helped me get to that next level. So if you're someone who's just like scared to reach out or network, or like, start to mingle with other people and leverage your network, like just seriously start just to collaborating, doing stuff, opening conversations, because you seriously never know what's going to happen until you kind of open that can of worms, and then it can lead you down the most incredible path ever. That's kind of what happened for me. So, in terms of relationships, I just say they can play such a bigger role in your life than you might think. You might think it's all just about the numbers. If we're talking personal finance, you might, whatever aspect of life we're talking about here, you might think might be able to just do it with all the tools and resources that you have at your fingertips. But, people are smart. There's, 7.5 billion of us on the planet now. There's probably a couple of people who can really help to supercharge your journey and just like help you level up so much faster than if you're going at it alone. So I cannot stress enough the power of relationships if leveraged correctly.
Yeah. One of the things I learned in college in my business fraternity that I was a part of, and it's so incredibly true and so powerful if you understand it. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And it's not about having fake relationships. It's about really investing in great relationships, like cultivating them, like actively investing in them, whether that's, meeting them for lunch or coffee, or going on a hike, or, doing some fun endeavor for them. I think that's really important. And I've been looking a lot at this over the last couple of years, and kind of one thing with two men talking about this, men tend to build relationships really well doing activities together. So you can literally just like go grab a workout at the gym together, play a sport together, get together for, 4 people playing spike ball, like, or just some mutual activity. It's so easy to develop, like, for example, for me, I have a rollerblading crew, and 2 of my best friends, one who is like what I call my 5 best friend, like we build our friendship over rollerblading adventures. Like, and like, we'll still call each other on the phone and talk about like 5 stuff. But like our main endeavor together is rollerblading, and that's how we built our friendship. And so for any men out there trying to figure out like, okay, I want to up level kind of like the men in my life, think of the activities that you really love, and then find the people that are ahead of you in particular aspects of life, and then like invite them to do that activity with you, because like we all want to play. Like, we're all kids at heart. We're all, little boys and little girls at heart. And when we let out that inner child, like that's a great way to like build a strong relationship. I'm not as familiar as like the best way to do it for women. I may have to have my wife on the show to talk about that. But from my understanding, women are just naturally better at cultivating relationships. In general, they just have that kind of like internal maternal spirit and personality. Whereas I think men need to be, especially as we get older, we have to be more and more strategic about actually like building, maintaining, and investing in both new, old, and current relationships. So really great insight there, Cody. You and me both, like if it wasn't for our relationships, we would not be where we are today.
We wouldn't even be talking to each other.
Exactly, dude. And we met through a mutual interest activity, like a Phi meetup. Like that's how we met and became friends. And, it's not like you and I talk all the time, but like we've stayed in touch over Instagram since 2019. And now you're on my podcast. I'm about to be on your podcast. I just like got the full download on your story, which I'd never heard before. And I'm like so inspired and grateful to call you a friend. And you're such an inspiring dude. Like, I wish I'd known you when I was in my 20s. You know what I mean? I wish there was a Cody, who was like right there with me when I was in my 20s. But hey, you and I are going to pass it forward. So We've covered a lot of aspects of life kind of through the lens of Phi, and I think this is kind of a good place to start to wrap it down. Do you have any last words or topics that you want to cover or share before we talk about the best place to find you online?
I think one last thing I'd like for the audience to hopefully take to heart is to not be afraid to take action. And we've been kind of talking about this during the entire podcast, but learning to fail, not being afraid of what other people are thinking of you, to go back to that last quote, just seriously, like 5 minutes of action toward a goal every day is so huge. And it doesn't take a long time, whether that's in business, in health, in relationships, like 5, 10, like whatever minutes you have to spare, because I know time, again, is our most valuable asset, so use it wisely. But if you're someone who's binging Netflix every night and you're just endlessly scrolling through social media and you're not making forward progress, and you really have some side hustle ideas and you want to start investing and you want a better relationship with your significant other and you want better friends, like take the 5 minutes. That's all it takes. The minimum investment, 5 minutes a day toward whatever goal that might be. And seriously, you'll wake up 3 years later and you'll be like, how the hell did I end up here? But you'll be so happy you did it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think if you have a lot of fear about chasing that goal, like anyone can stand anything for 5 minutes. So I think that is like the most brilliant advice to leave people with. Like, so whatever you're facing in your life, whether, it's, going after a goal or dealing with something that needs to be dealt with, like face the fear for 5 minutes and like transform yourself. So Cody, where's the best place to find you online for people who want to connect with you? They want to consume your content. They want to up level their network by, making sure that they're spending time with you, at least virtually. What's the best place to find you?
Yeah, so I'll go back to the very beginning here. I also have a podcast called The Phi Show, the Financial Independence Show, where we talk all things money, entrepreneurship, all that good stuff, retiring early. Then goldcityventures.com is where you'll find pretty much everything on, like, selling on Etsy, digital products, that whole can of worms that I opened up earlier. And then if you want to follow me on Instagram for more personal stuff and kind of just like everything I'm doing all in one, that's at Cody D. Berman.
Hell yeah, brother. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm definitely going to have you back in the future. Like, you're probably going to be a deca millionaire before me at the pace you're going, which then I'm going to look to you for inspiration. So I deeply, deeply appreciate your time, your energy, your wisdom, your insight, and just really being vulnerable and transparent. Like, you're so transparent about your story, and that's really empowering to people, both, young, middle-aged, and old. So thank you, brother. Look forward to having you back on and looking forward to being on your podcast.
Yeah, no, thanks so much, seriously, for having me, man. This was a blast. Hopefully your listeners got some value out of this one, and can't wait to dig into more of your story, because I'm excited to hear how you got to where you are.
Awesome, brother. Lots of dragon love and magic. Thanks for tuning in. And remember, literally everything can be used as an opportunity to learn, to heal, to grow, and to transform. So whatever is going on in your life, choose to consciously and proactively harness that energy and use it to alchemize your life to the next level. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with a friend or on your favorite social media, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. As always, you can find me at Justin David Carl on Instagram and all the socials, as well as at alchemizelife.com on the web. Until the next time, sending you lots of energy and plenty of dragon magic.